I'm Emily Hazard.
And I'm Becca Anderson.
And this is Grey's Anatomy Uncut, a podcast where we discuss and analyze episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 8, Let It Be, which was originally sung by, of course, the Beatles. Original air date was November 13th, 2005. Written by Mimi Schmir, welcome back. Directed by Leslie Linka Glatter.
That's
wow.
a name.
And 19.74 million viewers, which is the second highest for a Grey's Anatomy episode thus far.
Interesting.
I have 0 follow-up.
Same.
Alright. This episode is so quirky and so detail-oriented and also makes you read in between the lines. You have to watch the episode to pick up on some of the stuff that's happening in the episode, and it gets better with rewatches. You know that you have a good show when it actually gets better with rewatches and scrutiny instead of getting worse, because a lot of shows get worse the more you think about it. But actually, the more you think about this episode, the better it gets. It's utterly amazing. There's some amazing Meredith and Derek stuff. I actually like Derek and Addison's New York storyline, even though I'm going to make fun of them a lot.
Yeah, so I kind of like how this episode really gets back to the themes kind of can be seen through the episode, because we had that a lot in season 1, and then I feel like the first little bit of season 2 we kind of lost that because it was so focused on the whole Meredith, Derek, Addison saga. But this episode really gets back to it with the huge topic of like fate, like do things happen for a reason, and we kind of get that in a lot of different scenarios. You have, George's patient, where it's like, was he given a second chance to live for a reason? We get kind of fate in terms of love. We get a lot of different kind of definitions of the word fate.
In the 8th grade, my English class had to read Romeo and Juliet. Then, for extra credit, Mrs. Snyder made us act out all the parts. Sal Scaffarillo was Romeo. As fate would have it, I was Juliet. All the other girls were jealous, but I had a slightly different take. I told Mrs. Snyder that Juliet was an idiot. For starters, she falls for the one guy she knows she can't have, then blames fate for her own bad decision. Mrs. Snyder explained to me that when fate comes into play, choice sometimes goes out the window, and that I would be lucky if I ever experienced that type of true love. At the ripe old age of 13, I was very clear that love, like life, is about making choices, and fate has nothing to do with it. Everyone thinks it's so romantic. Romeo and Juliet, true love, how sad. If Juliet was stupid enough to fall for the enemy, drink the bottle of poison, and go to sleep in a mausoleum, she deserved whatever she got.
Honestly, this kind of sums up my views of Romeo and Juliet.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When we read that, everyone was like, I feel like this is the story that, everyone's like, I want a Romeo and Juliet, fairy tale. And I'm like, really? Because they knew each other for about, 3 days and then killed each other, killed themselves for the other person. And then everyone was sad at the end and, oh, Romeo and Juliet. And I'm like, they just met each other. And they were also 10.
They were 13. She was 13. Never was there a story of more woe than Juliet and her Romeo.
Barf. Let me just barf for a second.
That's about my extent of Shakespeare quoting. On a, different Grey's Anatomy note, this is the best... Oh my gosh, Meredith Grey. This sums up Meredith so well. It's this cynical view about love. I can imagine 13-year-old Meredith being like, Mrs. Snyder, you're a freaking idiot. I can just see it. I could do with 50 more references about Meredith's younger years. She sounds like a complete boss as a 13-year-old. There's a reason why the cliche of alluding to Romeo and Juliet, there's a reason why it's a cliche in TV and movies, and it's because it freaking works. Every single time. Every time. I just learned about you that you don't like Romeo and Juliet. but alluding to them, now not necessarily being beat for beat alluding to them.
Yeah.
But just the idea of forbidden love works. That's why it's a cliche.
Yeah. No, see, I get that part. But then everyone's like, oh, it's so romantic. And I'm like, yeah, one stabbed himself in the heart and the other one poisoned herself.
Mm-hmm. Sexy Mistake by the Shalettes.
Shalettes.
Plays for the intro.
So we basically get Derek looking as happy as ever on the deck of a ferry boat. I couldn't figure out the word. He just looks so pleased with life, and then he just looks down and sees Addison, and she looks perfect in this scene, and she just kind of waves and is so cute, and his face.
The complete, utter joy that drains out of his face. Patrick Dempsey is doing God's work in this episode. I flat out died when I watched this. Like, go back and watch this, because the joy that just drains out of this man's face. He's like, yeah, everything's coming up Derek today, and then like piano falls on his head, and the piano is Addison.
But it's so, like, she looks so good in this scene, and she looks so cute, like waving like, hey hubby,
and it's like sexy too, and you're like
yeah, like, hey hubby, and he just looks like, ugh.
And he's just like, you disgust me. Also, I mean, Addison, I know that you're still new to the show and everything, and you don't know, kind of what you're doing yet, but you're besmirching Meredith and Derek's sacred ground, the ferry boats. So, just to defend Derek, even though he's being a complete asshole in this scene.
You're like, oh, hey, look, it's my cute husband. And he's just like, ugh, you again.
Yeah, like, no, but on a serious note, like, if your husband is disgusted with you,
yeah,
that's kind of not good. Like, that would really mess you up.
Ruin the relationship.
Mm-hmm. So Addison pulls up in this amazing car at the hospital. What kind of car is that? I don't know cars that well.
I can't tell.
A Lincoln, maybe? I don't want to say anything and then be wrong. And then Meredith is just sitting in the
blue Jeep.
Yeah, in the blue Jeep. That's like, and obviously, this is just another example of Addison is fabulous and Meredith's life is just a shit show.
Well, and Meredith is sitting in the car putting on a Hello Kitty Band-Aid to cover up a zit. And then Addison just gets out of her car looking flawless as ever. Mm-hmm. Also, the sunglasses that Addison is wearing, I feel like they're a little bit too small for her face.
They are a little bit. They also kind of make her look like a cat.
I mean, they do have that kind of like cat eye shape, but they need to be bigger. Like, they're just really small on her face. And the uncomfortable wave that Meredith gives her, she's just like,
But is it just me or is it adorable?
It is. I literally wrote, again, Meredith is just so charming in this scene. Like, even though she's just putting a Band-Aid on his zit, like, she's supposed to be embarrassed, she's still just adorable. And you're like, oh.
I mean, it just makes you appreciate Addison more because, Meredith more. Mm-hmm. Because the audience can relate to having, like, a bad day. You know what I mean? With that sort of thing. But it also makes you love Addison because she looks so freaking amazing. Cut to Alex and Izzy loudly discussing personal details of their life in a busy hospital hallway. Same hallway where Meredith and Derek were screaming about condoms in Season 1, Episode 9.
I can just imagine there's, like, a security guard who's just watching these tapes. And, like, one week he has these people screaming about condoms, and now these people like, screaming about their personal relationship. And he's probably just like, yeah, better than cable or something. Like, the things that go down in this hospital, like, whoever's watching these security cameras is probably just like, what the hell?
But they don't... Do security cameras have audio?
Some of them do. I mean, you could read lips. Or you could at least see the tension.
You can read lips.
Yeah, you can read lips.
I can't read lips to the extent where I could understand this dialogue.
Okay, well, here. I can't either, but maybe the security guard guy is... I mean, if you watch security tapes all day...
Did he say, I kissed you with tongue? Or, I feel like I got stung? Sorry, read lips. That was a bad joke. Alright.
I was like, what are you talking about?
So Izzy is acting, like, so flustered.
Which, I mean, granted... I think she has a right to be a little flustered because Alex has kind of been all over the place.
No. What I mean is that it seems like she is just dying for him to, like, validate her. And I'm like, ugh, please, like, grow out of this, Izzy, please.
Mm-hmm. I also just, what he says. Should we, there's a discussion we could have if you wanted to have one.
Izzy, I kissed you with tongue, and I plan to do it again and again. Get used to it. End of discussion.
See, like,
it's just kind of gross. I'm like, dude.
I get the heart of his message, like, I kissed you and I want to do it again. Like, that's sweet. But the way he says it, in, like, the stuff that he adds.
It's so slimy.
You're just like, you're such a douche.
Yeah. And she's just like, okay. And then smiles and I'm like, ugh. Like, the fact that you liked that actually makes me like you less. I feel like this is part of Izzy's growth in this show. In the beginning of the show... like now. She really needs this kind of, like, validation from Alex type characters and Hank, you know?
Hank
the Tank. And I think that she's going to realize that she deserves better and can do better. I just can't wait for that.
Yeah. So then we cut over to Bailey and the Chief, and basically their storyline in this episode is that he thinks that she's leaving for another fellowship at another hospital, and he's getting really upset by it.
Yeah, and so we'll pick up more on that a little bit later.
I was about to say, it really doesn't get to, like, the point until later. It's just, I feel like it's mostly just kind of, like, a little funny dialogue of her just being like, go away, Chief. And he's like, you're coming back, right?
I'll be at Joe's later, so if you do... No, just kidding.
Like,
what if everyone in the hospital started using that line? Like, setting up ultimatums. Alex, I'll be at Joe's later, so if you do decide to sign the papers. And Alex is like, what papers? And she's like, oh, I knew you didn't want me.
Lizzie, we're not even dating. How can we get divorced?
So Meredith has finally made her way into the hospital at this point, and she walks onto a crowded elevator. Derek is in the back, and we notice, but she doesn't. And there's this patient named Talia, and her husband is named Speed.
Do they ever actually say that in the episode?
No, but you can get that from credits online.
Okay. Because I saw it in the notes, and I was like, oh, Speed. But, like, when I never heard them actually say it. And
his name is freaking Speed.
So
he
yeah,
deserves whatever he gets.
This guy is named Speed, which, first off, can we talk to his parents?
And somehow he got someone to marry him. And his name is Speed.
I mean, it's not his fault. His parents probably named him that.
Yeah, but you can be like, oh, my name is Speed, but I go by the nickname Eric. Like, you can, or like Benjamin. Like, you can just be like, my nickname is Benjamin. Or something. Just to be normal.
I guess.
I don't know. So, this little scene is not necessary in this episode. However, I'm not complaining about it. That is why I love it. When you really think about it, this scene is not necessary at all. But it adds so much to the episode. And I wanted to remind everyone right now that Mimi Schmir wrote this episode, and the one that she wrote before this was Season 1, Episode 8, which was The Psychic. That episode is notorious for laying little hints until the end when you're like, holy crap, and it all comes together. And when you compare the writing, you're like, yeah, I can see how this woman also wrote this episode, because they're very similar in that sense. So I've been comparing Early Grays to a lot of different TV shows that I'm watching lately on TV. And
thank you.
Early Grays just is trying something. It's quirky. It's trying to do stuff all the time. It's including stuff like this all the time. This scene where Meredith and Derek both say, the basement, it's not necessary. Or like Talia's line from the beginning, where she's like, I feel like my guts have been ripped out. And Meredith is like, me too, but that's for a different reason. And so I think I just like this quirky, like addition of stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be in the episode, but I like that it's in there. Also, question to you. Do you think Derek, it being in the back of the elevator, is supposed to symbolize him in the back of Meredith's mind? And she, can't get away from him?
Or, like, on the periphery of her, like, vision.
Mm-hmm. Like, always back there?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like how they included this scene, because it really speaks loudly about kind of, like you said, like, where Meredith and Derek are. You know, how he's kind of always in the back of his head. But then when she looks around, like, looks back and, like, looks at him, her face, she actually looks like she's gonna, like, kill him.
Really? Because I thought it was more, it wasn't like the, I'm mad at you. I thought it was more of the, like, I don't care so hard. Like, it's one of her, like, I'm so destroyed faces. Not like I'm actually angry, but I'm just destroyed.
See, I thought it looked angry, and then he kind of, like, in a way almost seemed, like, a little scared of her, in the sense of, like, maybe he's finally realized how much he hurt her.
Spoiler, I don't think he does.
Well, I also really like, I just thought of this, but in this scene, spoiler, Talia and Speed come back.
I didn't realize that until this time. I was gonna wait for that.
I know.
But I didn't. Okay.
Oh, yeah. But I just like how in this scene, they literally are like, I have food poisoning. It feels like someone ripped out my guts. And then later in the show, they show them, like, eating out at a fine restaurant.
Take 2.
And you're like, well, she got over that quickly. Because she says, like, I had one lousy restaurant clam. Like, I hope she didn't order the clams from this restaurant.
I hope she did, because it was a seafood place. It was, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, my God.
Well,
Cut to the outside of the hospital, like on the street. This feels like downtown Seattle. Now, I don't know if they filmed this in downtown Seattle because I don't know Seattle well enough.
But look it up on Google
like
Maps
No.
again.
No. There wasn't anything in the background that I could identify.
Oh my god. I also feel like this is one of, like, later in the show, I feel like we don't get that many outside the hospital scenes, like, just on the streets. Because we've had a couple up to this day, you know?
Okay, so we've had the one where Derek almost got hit by a bike, and it was awesome. We've had...
Hello, Dr. Barely. Shut up.
I think that and this.
Well, I mean, like, we had that scene of Alex pushing the one patient in the wheelchair around the outside of the hospital.
That wasn't, like, in Seattle, though. They've always been, like, next to the hospital.
Okay, that's fair.
Oh, last episode with Addison and Derek.
Oh, yeah.
At Pier 66, guys.
So we find out that Cristina and Burke have a date night. Which, Cristina, it's a night, with a date. So
yeah, that's what a date night is.
You're like, so date night. They're so socially awkward, but I love it.
They also are so into each other. Like, you can just tell that they're, like, really into each other, but they're so awkward.
They both just, like, their little smile, and then Burke's smile as she, like, walks away.
It's adorable. They both can't hold back their smiles, but it's so subtle that I can't get enough of it.
And then it just clicks over to George, who looks so confused.
He looks like a puppy that somebody, like, kicked out of their van and then was just like, gun it, get away from him. And he's like, guys, like a dog that was abandoned. That's what he looks like.
He does. And then to make things worse, then a pigeon, like, poops on his bagel, which I died at. It just happened, and I was like, oh my god. Like, even though, you know, you still have George being on top in the hospital, you still have these little moments where you're like, poor George.
The world, you know, kicks him down a notch again. He's like, heart in an elevator? Here's a pigeon poop for you.
Pigeon poop bagel.
And he's like, God, sheesh. And then he starts to walk away. And then exactly where he was standing, a dude falls from the sky and lands on the pavement.
And George's face is just like, what?
He's just like, oh. And there are people around him that are like, just going about their regular day.
Yeah, they're like, la la la.
There's just one woman in this ridiculous looking hat.
Oh, yeah, I noticed her.
It's like...
It's one of those, like, humongous, like, fur kind of hats that you, like...
It's just not that cold.
It's just, yeah.
It's like a fur, like head warmer. I don't even know. It's weird.
A fur head warmer is a fur hat. That hat is a head warmer. They're one and the same.
Okay.
Anyway, I think the best part would be, so this guy comes to the hospital. I think the best part would be if, like, one of the doctors is like, oh, look, a bagel. Just, like, pulls
Yeah. Because the bagel was underneath him too, right?
Yeah, but they don't. Spoiler, they don't find the bagel. Like, could you...
The bagel should have been underneath him,
like, could you
right?
just... I can just see Cristina just, like, pulling it off this guy's back and being like, bagel, and, like, takes a bite out of it or something.
That's horrifying. Oh my god.
Can you not see that, though?
I cannot see Cristina eating a pigeon bagel. No. I can't. So, yeah, we cut over to them, like, you know, checking out this guy in the ER.
And he's, like, fine.
Yeah.
My favorite is they just, like, roll him over, and they're just like, are those feathers?
George, it, like, picks up a feather, and he, like, starts petting this feather, and he's like, thank you.
It's so weird. He's literally like, my life was saved by that pigeon, and you're like, yeah, after he ruined your breakfast.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's, like, fate, you know? Like, I think that's what George was talking about. I don't think he was actually talking about the fact that the bird held up the man, because he didn't. The whole point was was like, if the bird hadn't pooped on George's
I know.
on George's bagel, he would have been standing there despondently like a lost little puppy. And then can you imagine if, like, the show just did that? Just had, like, George get destroyed by a man falling from the sky, and then, like, that was it. And they were just like, he's gone.
No, it'd be even better if he was, like, fine, and he comes in, and they're like, Christina, patch George together, and she'd be like, ugh,
yeah.
Little puppy.
And then they, like, pull the beak out of him. Anyway. Meredith with her patient Esme, which only made me think of Carlisle and Esme from Twilight.
Ew, not again.
And she's so cute. She's so cute. She's like, he watches cable, he thinks he's a doctor. And I was like, me too, sister. Meta.
Her and her husband. I just love Meredith. Do you have any questions? And Esme just looks at her and goes, honey, what happened to your forehead?
And Meredith is like, nothing.
My ex-boyfriend just destroyed me, and all I have to show for the relationship is a zit on my forehead covered by this Hello Kitty Band-Aid.
Which, again, season 1, episode 4, but we talked about Hello Kitty and how it was going to come back later in the show, and this is the episode it comes back. So now we're introduced to Weiss and Sav.
Okay, first. Weiss is a stupid name. It's the name of a grocery store.
And Sav is better. My name is Savannah, but I go by Sav. I literally prefer Calpurnia right now.
I think Weiss is worse than Sav, but I mean, Sav is still... Yeah. I mean, Savannah is still a pretty, like, a normal name.
Yeah, but... okay. So, these two are Derek and Addison's friends from New York, and they're basically the less attractive versions of Derek and Addison. They're the B team.
Which literally, Weiss looks exact... Like, he has the same kind of hair, like the curly dark hair, but it's failing.
Yeah. Also, it's bigger than Derek's hair.
But, like, failing. Like, it's bigger, but, like, it's still... Like, it doesn't look as, like, lush as Derek's does.
It doesn't have that crest of hair that somebody could ride on. So, anyway, we're introduced to Weiss by him yelling at a nurse, which completely sums up the rest of his character from this episode. And we're introduced to Sav on the bridge where Derek goes to be alone with his man pain, which... Coincidence? Probably. Maybe. Also, the guy who plays Weiss is, he plays an attorney on SVU a lot, and let's put it this way, he did not age well.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut over, Weiss and Derek are talking. And Weiss is just like, yeah, Sav's mother died, like, a month ago or whatever. And Derek just goes like, Catherine died? Like, oh, sorry I missed the funeral. I was in Seattle with my girlfriend, who I just dumped for my wife.
Good question. Do you think that Weiss and Sav know about Meredith?
I don't know.
Because later in the show, it's insinuated that news of Meredith reached all the way back to New York. But
probably.
Meredith never has a scene with them. They never insinuate that they know about him. Her, I mean.
So basically they realize that Sav has a gene that means that she could get either breast or ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. And so basically she has come to Addison for her to take out her ovaries and her uterus, and then, as she says, when that's done, you're going to find the best person out there to cut off my breasts. Which...
Why isn't Addison the best person to do that? Well, I guess she's not... Because that's plastic.
I was about to say, right? I think that would be more... at least the, like, reconstruction would be more plastics.
This is a really important issue that they're bringing up here. Like, what would you do? Would you do all of this just because you might have cancer?
I don't know. Like,
She has an 85% chance, though, because she has the gene.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely has, like, a high chance. But I feel like I mean, obviously I can't 100% relate to this because I don't, like, have this. But I feel like, at least, like, from this point, what I think I would do is, like, I think I would wait until I actually got cancer. I mean, theoretically, you know, you've figured out you have the gene, so what are you gonna, like, I would get, like, you know, pretty routine checkups and everything, and as soon as if they find something that's cancer, be like, all right, let's go get this, like, surgery, let's get it done.
She is a bit of a fatalist. Mm-hmm. I feel like she would get a paper cut and then just, like, amputate her entire arm.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, right now what she's talking about is about, like, a couple major surgeries for only a possibility of getting cancer.
It's not even just the surgeries, though. It's not the, like, oh, like, my surgical scar will heal and then I'll be, like, normal again.
Well, I mean,
It's completely gonna change her life.
Well, yeah, but even, I mean, like, you never know. I mean, surgeries could always go wrong. Like, she could technically die on the table. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously she's a healthy person besides this. Well, we assume. But
she looks pretty hard. Like, she has seen some stuff. Like, you see her face and you're like, you've done some stuff.
This scene. Literally, Cristina and George are removing bits of the pigeon from Stu's back. And this little line, Stu just goes, beak, and then George and Cristina, claw.
Just like...
And you're like, ugh.
This is another example of a scene that doesn't need to be in this episode. But the fact that it is makes all the difference. Mimi Schmir, you rock. And I wish that you wrote for Grey's Anatomy more. Because I've looked up your writing credits. And she's only written 3 episodes. Mm. And they're, so far, 2 of my favorite episodes of Grey's Anatomy. Mm-hmm. So...
I just love... George is so hung up on this man. And the fact that, like... You know, as George saying, he thinks it's fate that this man lived and that, like, he is now meant to, like, do something more kind of thing. Like, that he's survived a miracle and thus must, I don't know, go devote his life to saving other people. I don't know. And Stu is kind of having none of this. He's just like, go away. I mean, he even asked Cristina, like, any chance you can make him leave? And Christina's like, I wish I could.
I really, really wish I could. Oh, and then they find the beak. And then George goes, do you mind? Can I keep that?
Which, first off, where the hell are you going to keep that? You're just going to play...
You didn't notice? He wears it around his neck for the rest of the episode.
I didn't notice that.
He wears it on a string around his neck for the rest of the episode.
Oh my god. Okay, that is just creepy. That thing is going to start to decompose.
I hope he sterilized it, because if not, that is disgusting. But also, another thing that Mimi Schmir, like, that's genius. It's just there. It's one of those things where it's like, the more you watch this episode, the more you notice, the better it gets. It doesn't do the opposite way, which most television does. How to Get Away with Murder. That was just stuck in my throat right there.
So then we cut over to Sav, Addison, and Weiss, whatever, stupid name. And Izzy's just kind of like in the doorway, like, hey,
I'm just here,
hanging out. And basically, we figure out that Weiss doesn't want Sav to go through this procedure. And I just love Derek just walks in and he goes, and a 15% chance she won't. And Addison just looks at him and it's like, what? Are you invited?
Literally. Well, because he acted like a complete asshole to her on that ferry boat this morning, and now he's just like, hey, I'm here.
Walking into her consultation?
Yeah. It's like, he's like undermining her in every way possible.
Pretty much.
Okay, so she says, I'm not betting my life on 15%. So I guess the argument is, what kind of life will you have if you go through with it? That's Weiss's argument.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense, but at the same time, I feel like he's kind of being selfish and just thinking about, like, what kind of life will I have if you go through with this? Mm-hmm. Instead of, like, what kind of life will you have?
I mean, he's acting like he's just this selfless, like, oh, I don't want to ruin your life. No, it's about him. Let's be clear about this.
And you might not see it now, but you really see it as the episode goes on, that he's, at least for the most part, focused on how her decision is going to affect him.
Yeah.
Which it's like, I get it, but like, it's her life. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to affect her more than it's going to affect him.
Mm-hmm. So when Sav says the line, and watch your mother die from the disease, I was like, Meredith, like, you know, like, bing, ding, ding, ding. Like, it was just bells going off in my head, because there are a lot of parallels between Sav and Catherine, which is Sav's mom, and then Meredith and Ellis. Which at some point in the show, Derek also tries to impose his opinions on that, too.
Yeah, that's true. That comes later.
Oh, this part. Derek goes, she tell you that they're trying to get pregnant? Addison, yes, she did. And then Derek, having a hysterectomy is going to throw a wrench into that. No shit, Derek. Thanks for telling me how the human body works. Addison is like, no shit, I'm a gynecologist. I think I know. It's just like the two white men are trying to tell this girl what to do with her body.
Yeah. Which is, in a way, I kind of like Addison's approach to this. Like, do you think... Like, I don't know. I just think she... You know, she talked to her about the beginning and was kind of like, are you sure? You do have a 15% chance that you're not going to get cancer at all. And obviously, Sav is like 100% like, this is the decision I want. And so Addison has this capability to put aside her relationships with her and realize that, like, I'm also your doctor and this is what you want. And so, like, I'm not going to let my feelings go ahead of or, like, influence how, like, I'm going to treat you. And I think she does a really good job at that. Whereas you see kind of Derek is like, I don't know, I feel like he's letting his emotions kind of get the best of him there, which, shocking.
Yeah, shocker. So what you're basically saying is that Addison, i.e. the women on this show, have the ability to see things in shades of gray, and Derek sees everything in black and white.
Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is, Izzy also has a problem with this. And I feel like she later lets her own feelings kind of get in the way.
That's a whole nother story, though.
Which we'll talk about more of that when we get there.
So Addison and Derek have this fight on, of course, you know, the bridge where Derek always goes to have emotional moments. Yeah. And Addison, I find it interesting that she holds up her hand and makes him look at the wedding ring. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only thing that has worked in the past, when you think about it. Every time that he pulls away from her, the only thing that has stopped him from completely leaving her is, you made this commitment, look at the ring. Mm-hmm. And I find it interesting that she kind of calls to that, because she was emotionally just destroyed this morning on the ferry boat.
Yeah.
You know, when all the life drained out of his face. It was amazing.
And I mean, I think she has a good point to make here, you know. She's like, you won't acknowledge me, like, on the ferry boat. Like, you hardly talk to me while we're at work. They go to couples therapy 3 times a week. Like, he doesn't seem like he's putting an effort into this. And she basically, like, says, she's like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like Derek is using Weiss and Sav to yell at Addison through them.
Yeah. Because then he's like, this isn't about us. And she's like, it is, because you're letting your personal vendetta or, like, your personal agenda against me get in the way of treating this person as a patient. Mm-hmm. And, like, as she says, you know, like, they're, like, medicine aside, our friends are going through hell in there, and we can't even act like we like each other long enough to help them.
Derek is one of those people that whatever he is feeling, he's going to let it show. He just is.
Yeah, so then we cut back over to Meredith and her patient Esme. Which is just... Jed, who's Esme's husband.
His name is freaking Jed.
Otter's mate for life, you know. And it's
and
like...
Meredith is like, why the fuck would I know that?
Like... And then I just let Esme, as do bulls, I suppose.
Okay, it's not bulls, it's voles. So V-O-L-E-S.
Oh, voles. And then, like, I've always liked otters. And then Meredith, I've always been more of a dog person myself.
With continuity in the show, in a
Comes
few
back.
episodes, I love these kind of, like, they're laying track for stuff later in the show. Because, yes.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut back to George. Who, again, is like, I don't understand why my patient isn't so excited about this that I'm so excited about. And then Meredith is just like, shut up, we're talking about me.
Yeah, Meredith's got a Meredith in this episode. I mean, she's got to. So, she brings up, you know, Derek, as per usual.
And George is like, I'm serious. And she's like, so am I, George. This revolves around me. God.
Yeah. I am the sun and everyone else is a planet.
God, George.
Christina, what's with the Hello Kitty on your forehead? I don't want to talk about it.
And then she goes, I have a test date.
Flashback to the last test date. Put it this way. It can't go worse than Meredith and Derek's test date.
Unless Burke brings his divorce papers.
Here are my divorce papers. Oh wait, I'm not married. Oh wait, you are my first girlfriend. Yeah, okay, so literally, this is such a Grey's Anatomy thing, but they'll have 3 characters come into a scene, and they will all talk about themselves for the entire scene. and then they'll
literally
all
do.
leave.
They do.
They do this in this scene. George is just like, carpe diem, like, blah, 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 blah. Meredith is just, like...
Off in Meredith world.
Yeah, you know, Meredith is being Meredith and talking about herself and in her own world. Christina is also talking about herself, and yet somehow all the dialogue fits. It's so good. The giant zit on my forehead. I'm beginning to look how I feel. Yeah.
I just love George. This is the luckiest day in the world. And then Christina, tell that to the bird.
Classic. That was almost as good as talk about taking a bite out of crime.
So good. Ah, yes. Now we get to the Izzy and Sav scene. The first of a couple.
And Sav goes, like, is noticing that Izzy is kind of, like, looking at her, and she goes, it's the kid thing. And Izzy, you know, says back, it's a none of your freaking business thing. Sav pulls a Mrs. Glass, and has to have just this, like, has to have Izzy agree with her for some reason throughout this whole episode. It's weird how Sav is very superficial. You know what I mean? She really is. She's trying not to be, but I think she really does care. And she is very superficial. It's like, why do you care if this random intern agrees with you?
Yeah.
Why does it matter? But
maybe
it
she has heard things about Meredith, and maybe she thinks that she's at Meredith.
Oh my god. That would change everything. Damn. That is an awesome theory. Holy crap. So anyway, Sav says, yes, I'd like to be pregnant. I'd like a lot of things. I want to skydive. I'd like to learn Italian. I want to go to San... Trope with my...
Or Tope?
Tropez? Tropez?
Whatever.
Is the Z silent?
Silent?
I want to go to some beach with my husband and lie topless on the beach.
With my surgical scars.
Yeah. With my reconstructed breasts. Anyway, and I was like, this is the dumbest comparison ever. She's just like, I want to skydive. I want to learn Italian. You don't need a uterus to skydive. You don't need a uterus to learn Italian. She's just like, I can't do any of these things without my uterus.
I don't even know. But I just like, because Sav's just like, I don't have a lot of options. 1, take my chances and never get cancer. 2, take my chances and die young. And then Izzy's like, there's a third option. Take your chances, get cancer, and fight like hell to survive. Which also, there's also the option, maybe there's a chance that you won't even get cancer. Option 5, or you get cancer and then they do the surgery and you're fine. Mm-hmm. You got more options than you think here, honey.
Although,
like, I'm not against what she's doing. I'm just saying, she's like, I only have 2 options. And I'm like, no, you have more.
Mm-hmm. To get more into this scene, though, it is really annoying, Izzy, that Alex seems to be taking Sav's side without blinking an eye. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that when it comes up later.
Yeah.
Also, this scene, like, we kind of brushed over that part where Izzy goes, there's a third option, you know. But I love that line. Katherine Heigl is the queen. The way she delivers it, it's one of the first times that Izzy drops, like, just wisdom and then just completely, like, bounces out of a scene. But, like...
wisdom. Ow.
Yeah, she's like, wisdom mic drop. Ow. And it's awesome. There's, like, the way she says it, she's like, there's a third option, you know. Like, when she said it like that, I was like, God damn, Katherine Heigl, you're amazing.
There's also a 4th and 5th option.
According to Becca.
They're perfectly viable options.
Still according to you.
Okay, well, they were options. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she didn't think about all the options. She only 2 options.
I only have 2 options.
Actually, there's 5.
Actually, stop talking.
Becca is dropping some wisdom here. That'd be great scene. So No Sleep Tonight by the Faders plays. And we have Christina in the locker room trying on all these dresses.
Izzy, they're both really nice. I know, I bought them. But which one is right?
I just love Christina. And then she's like, Izzy, for what? You're gonna look hot in either one. Well, clearly.
That's not the point. What is the point?
I think she just wants to look right.
Right. Okay.
Or do, like, the right thing. I don't know.
And Meredith, you know, she goes, wow, you look hot. We hooking up?
Yeah, Burke and I are going to talk about how hot I am over dinner.
Spoiler, they're not, because If Burke ever talked about how hot she was over dinner, I think I would explode. Because I don't think it would ever happen. I don't think Burke can have that kind of conversation. He'd be like, this is so embarrassing.
And then George, like, tries to give her advice. But it's easy to get nervous on dates. It's especially hard if you're out of practice. So you just gotta be mellow. And everyone's like, shut up, George.
Like, literally the last person in this room that should be giving dating advice is George. The guy who had one girlfriend over, the span of, like, a year, and then immediately got syphilis.
He also, like, never took her out on a date.
Yeah, I know. They just slept together. Well, actually, no. Okay, so they got together. Yeah, they might have gone on a date.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then Cristina. Yeah, I know how to date George. I'm not you.
And then Izzy just casually changes the subject. And
she pulls a Meredith.
I couldn't do it. And Alex, of course, being like, what are you talking about? You can't dress nice for a date with your boyfriend?
Cristina sums it up. Go wrestle something.
And then she's like, I couldn't cut off my ovaries and breasts just because I might have cancer. And everyone's like, wait, what? Who are you talking about?
Think of it like a hand. If someone told you you'd die if you didn't chop off your hand, you'd do it.
But the thing is like, she's not going to die if she doesn't do this. Mm-hmm. It's not until, like, you have an 85% chance that you're going to die if you don't do this. It's just 85% chance you might get cancer.
I would like to know more of the details about this cancer. Is this cancer, like, extremely aggressive? Is it, like, 100% going to metastasize? Like, we don't have enough details. Come on, Sav.
We need to know more. Because that's my thing, is I'm like, they're acting like it's either 85% chance I'm dead or 15% chance I'm not. But I'm like, people have survived from breast cancer before. And, like, yeah, like, your mom didn't. But, like, at this point, they know you have the gene. So won't they be watching for it? And so you might catch it earlier.
Again, she's a fatalist.
And so, but again, like, we don't know that much about it. Like, it could be, like, a super aggressive.
She'd probably, like, sprain her ankle and then decide to cut her whole leg off.
Like, that's my thing. They're just like, oh, she's just gonna go die. And I'm like, is she though? Is she though? Because in only one of those options doesn't have her dying.
Yeah. And then Meredith says the most Meredith Grey line I've ever heard in my life. If it were me, I wouldn't even have the test. I mean, what's the point? We're all gonna die anyway, right? And then they all, like, look at her and they're like, oh my god. And she's like, it's the Hello Kitty Band-Aid on my forehead. It's freaking me out. And I was like, that is the most Meredith Grey thing I've ever heard in my life. One, because she could have a test to tell her if she, has the gene for Alzheimer's. And in fact, that becomes a plot line later in the show.
I also just love the thought of, like, she's like, at first you're like, yeah, Meredith has a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on her forehead. And you're like, did Meredith go out and buy a box of Hello Kitty Band-Aids?
It's probably Izzy's.
Can you just imagine that she's, like, at the, like, counter with, like, all this random, like, death
throwing
stuff.
Some
and, like,
glow-in-the-dark condoms.
And, like, all this stuff. And then it's just, like, Hello Kitty Band-Aids. And the cashier's just like,
the cashier is like, please leave, you're scaring me. Alex, I say slice them and dice them, whatever, they're body parts.
Ew.
So do you cut off your penis? If it kept me from dying. Besides, I have plenty of spare. What the hell does that mean? I need an answer.
I feel like it's, like, plenty of sex drive or something. Because Izzy, like, beforehand goes, except when you chop off a hand, you don't kill your sex drive, had silicone breasts, get hot flashes, and lose your ability. But, like, I feel like he's talking about, like, the sex drive or something. Which is just, like, TMI.
I need clarification.
Like, whatever the hell you're talking about, mean? Alex, is just TMI.
And then Izzy's face is the face that she should have had for him the entire episode.
Like, ugh. And then Cristina, back in her own world. I can do hot in my sleep. I look hot in scrubs. I'm a hot person.
He's seen me naked 1,000 times, and George is like, bad images in my head. And I was like, oh, as if, George. We know that you think about that.
Oh, George.
And the Meredith buddy's never seen you outside the hospital. The way she delivers that line is so weird. I'm like, Meredith.
And Christina's just like, gee, thanks, friend.
Also, she was looking for the right dress, and she picks the lavender one. There's a lavender theme on this show. Meredith wore lavender the night of the party when she hooked up with Derek. Christina's wearing lavender now on the first date with Burke. It will 100% continue. Meanwhile, Burke's color is all beige.
Again.
He's wearing beige again. From head to toe, this man is beige.
No, it's back to the analogy. Derek sees things in black and white. All the women see things in shades of gray. Burke sees things in shades of beige.
I'm colorblind. Oh, shit.
Is that a color beige? I want beige scrubs.
What the? What was that voice? That scared the shit out of me. What was that?
That was my Burke voice.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
No. Work on it.
I don't know.
You've done it before.
Oh my god.
There we go.
I can't do it very well. And then I love, they're like walking to his car, and she like quickens her pace to like open the door for herself, and he's like, nah, I beat you to it.
This Burke and Cristina date gives me life. It recharges my batteries. I love this date. It's so awkward from the beginning, and it's awesome.
But it's so good.
And it's so cute. He walks around the car and he like lets out a breath because he's nervous. And I'm like, oh my god, Burke, if only you knew how awkward this was. His hands are shaking.
If only you knew how normal dates went.
But, like, this is how Burke shows that he cares. He's not Derek. He's not gonna lay down a, like, you were, like, coming up for fresh air, you know? Mm-hmm. He's not gonna lay down a speech like that. This scene shows that he cares. And I feel like people who are like, Burke sucks, don't understand his character.
Mm-hmm. So basically they cut over to Meredith and Bailey performing surgery on Esme, and they find out that she has cancer. So they talk to Jed, and then he kind of looks at them and goes, I don't want Esme to know.
Which is almost I just now realizing, a reversal of Sav and Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, this is what would happen if she waited, got the cancer, and then instead of the woman knowing, this is, like, the woman not knowing.
I just like, he's like, please, you saw her. She's happy. Let me take her home. I don't want her to be afraid before she dies. She doesn't need to.
Except she will. Like, how... You don't think that she's not gonna, like, that she's not gonna notice that there's cancer growing in her? Like, you start having symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think she'll know eventually that she's dying. Like, oh, hey, look, I'm on my deathbed. And then we just cut over. Poor Stu. No more carpe diem, man.
Carpe diem.
Whatever. I don't want to seize the day.
See, that's what I don't get. I'm standing here. I'm just so incredibly happy to be alive. You know, I'm looking at the sky. It's bluer. Food tastes better. And I didn't survive a 5-story fall. And then he's like, you jumped, didn't you? Mm-hmm. And you're like, damn.
And you're like, whoa.
Suddenly it all makes sense.
Yeah. I just think it's so interesting. Because then it also, like, takes it...
It takes fate and twists. Like, what was the fate then?
Well, I think it's fate in the sense of you wanted to die, but you didn't. Like,
so there's a reason.
Was there a reason for that? Mm-hmm. Or do I just suck? Like, I don't know. Like,
was there a reason, or do I just suck?
I don't know. I couldn't.
Little column A, little column B.
I don't know. I couldn't think of a better way to say that.
Oh, God.
But you know what I mean? Like, was this... I mean, like, if you're religious, like, is this God giving me another chance? Or, like, okay, I don't know. Or, like, your sense of, like, a higher being. Or, like, is this the universe giving me another chance? And, like, is it just inevitable that I'm going to get to the same place again and, like, try to kill myself again kind of thing?
It's still fate.
Yeah.
But now, like, Grey's Anatomy, like, I swear to God, you're so good. It twists it. Because at first, in the beginning of the episode, you're like, it's fate, he survived, like, oh, I can't believe he survived, he needs to do something with his new life, or whatever. And then it just, like, Grey's is like, see that rug you're standing on? I'm gonna pull it out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And it twists it, so it's still fate. It's like, why did I survive? Yeah. It turns into...
Well, it takes it from being a fall, and the person being like, I want to survive this, because, like, I didn't want to fall, to being like, he had no intentions of surviving. Like, literally him surviving is upsetting for him. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of taking...
Like, now what?
Yeah, it's like taking that fate and being like... Yeah.
So the whole way down, he was thinking about his... he was thinking about Daisy. My ex-girl, is how he puts it. And I was like, gross.
Daisy Ridley?
Yeah. I did write that.
I know.
Daisy.
So then George comes up with this thing of, oh, obviously this is you getting a second chance to...
Well, because she works in the hospital.
Yeah.
So it's like...
So they're like, yeah, go find Daisy, whatever.
Well, and George, he has problems stepping up and doing things in his own life. So he's so invested in this other man's life because he can't do the things that he wants to do. You know what I mean? Like, this is clearly a metaphor of, I need to tell Meredith that I'm in love with her. Mm-hmm. But he can't do it in his own life, so he becomes so invested in this other person's life.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut back over to Weiss and Derek.
Okay, seriously though, if they replaced the actor with a literal bag of dicks in this episode, the character would be the same. That's how bad he is.
I get that it's a difficult time for him, but he literally says, he's like, we had a future. We had plans. We picked out baby names together. She betrayed that. I'm like, she's not dying. You can still have a future. You can still have plans. Like, he's acting like she's just gone. He's like, she's gone. Yeah. Everything's gone. Mm-hmm. And you're like, nope, she's still gonna be there.
It's like she's just not gonna be as, like, physically attractive, which I guess is all you care about, Weiss.
This conversation. Because Derek is like, you'll get through this, all right? You'll get through this. You guys love each other. And then Weiss goes, is that what you said about you and Addie? And Weiss is like, he's like, you left her. And Derek goes, that was different. And then Weiss is like, was it, Derek? Really? Which I'm like, yes, bro, it is. Your wife is getting surgery to avoid getting cancer. Addison cheated on Derek, so Derek left.
I feel like Weiss just, like, somehow picked up along the line that he should just end every conversation that he wants to win the argument with was it? Really? Was it, Derek? Really?
Like, it's just so stupid.
Just, like, got him. And then it's like, no.
That's the thing, though. They, like, change the conversation right after that, like, ooh, Weiss got him. And I'm like, he didn't, though. 100% two different things. And he's like, was it, Derek? And Derek is just like, no, you're stupid.
Addison, I guess, betrayed Derek and didn't ask his opinion. But, like, it's her freaking body, Weiss. She can do whatever the freak she wants to her own body.
Can you just imagine Addison coming up to Derek and being like, hey, Derek, I'm thinking of sleeping with Mark. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's just like... Also, it was in this scene that I realized that Derek looking at Weiss is like looking in an ugly mirror. Like, Derek is like, damn, you're like the ugly version of me.
It just bothers me. He's like, this is exactly the same thing that happened to you and Addison. And Derek is like, no, because Addison cheated on me, and then I went to Seattle and cheated on her with Meredith, who is now my love, but I can't be with her because I'm trying to be with Addison.
There's just so much cheating.
And you're
Weiss
like,
is like, see, it's exactly the same. And everyone's like, no, it's not.
You're like, are you blind? I don't get it. All right.
No, but he's ugly. So now we're going to this seafood restaurant with Cristina and Burke on their date. And every single way they could be opposite during this date, they are. And I get that it's there for comedy, but...
It's so funny.
There's also a far more important reason, which we will get back to later.
It's so funny. Like, she's literally like, where's the butter? And he, like, passes her olive oil, and she's like, no, I want butter. God. And then Burke is like, oh, we'll have a nice, like, Chardonnay. And she goes, oh, I want Bordeaux. And he's like, Chardonnay will be better with a lobster. I'm having steak.
You eat red meat. You don't. And then the butler from Clue is so confused. The butler from Clue, who is their waiter. Yeah. Everyone else is on my phone. Why not him?
Yeah. It's just so fun. Like, he's literally like, yes, I'm having fish with a nice white wine. And she's like, I want my red wine with my steak. Like, could you two be more different?
In some ways, yes. In other ways, not at all. And that's the brilliance of their relationship. So then we cut to Meredith and George is holding a map of the hospital. This is my holy grail.
Oh my god.
Do you know how many times I've said that I want to make a map of the hospital? It's right, it's like in his hands, and I can't quite make out anything.
I see the beak.
Says. Yeah.
In the screenshot. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
And so he's wearing the beak. Just these little touches that you will never see. Something like that in season 14 of Grey's Anatomy. Never. And they do it in these episodes, and it's just so good. George, someone's got to tell her how he feels. It's like, oh my gosh. Why don't you just tell her how you feel, George? She's right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, he goes, this could change everything. I thought you were a romantic. And then Meredith goes, was, past tense.
Which, was she ever romantic?
I don't know. I mean, there was that one look that she gave Derek in season 1, episode 8, which, Mimi, I love you. And she holds out her hand, and it's the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But,
like, I think she was, like, getting there, and then Derek just destroyed her. And now she's just like, romance is stupid. Romeo and Juliet suck.
Derek walks in,
Ew.
and this is what I'm talking about. He absolutely is handling this situation wrong. Like, he doesn't understand.
So stupid.
The way he talks to her is so messed up. I'm like, Derek, you do not understand how destroyed this woman is. Like, you need to,
Because of you.
He needs to be walking on eggshells right now, and instead he literally starts making fun of her.
I like the Hello Kitty, by the way. Very pink, very cheerful. And she looks at him like, I'm gonna stab you with a scalpel.
Yeah. I'm gonna stab you and then poop in the knife holes.
And George is just like, I'm not here. I'm pretending I'm not here.
Stacy works in billing, which is where? The basement. Like, perfect. Just another, like... That they're on the same wavelength, you know, and Addison and Derek aren't on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. Which is...
And then George just makes that weird noise.
It's so quirky. Yeah, and they both look at him.
So then we cut back to Burke and Christina's date, which, I'm sorry, is 100%, like, it looks like the most boring date ever. Like, literally they're talking, like, oh, we should probably skip dessert. I have an early morning. And Burke's like, yeah, we should. Like...
He's just like, God damn it, I was looking at the tiramisu.
And then, right on cue, Speed, the guy from earlier.
Speed. His name is Speed.
Which, again, he took his wife out to a restaurant after she had food poisoning. Okay. But then he just collapses at a table, and both of them are like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Something
is
to
there
save
a doctor
the night.
Here? Yes. And they both stand up right away.
So then we get Bang Bang to the Rock and Roll by Gavin.
That's the song title, which, wow.
And Christina and Burke are, like, checking over Speed.
Speed. I'm sorry. I'm done.
And they're going to take him to the
Yeah, they're,
hospital.
like, going back and forth like crazy, and she goes, what are you talking about? Who are you people?
The best couple ever.
Yes. Paramedic, who is Ray? This is Ray, the paramedic that we met last episode, and he goes... Like, who the hell are you? I was like, how do you not know who Burke is?
Or at least Christina. I mean, she was trashing your ambulances like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, like, that actually did throw me off. And then I thought, theory?
Maybe.
Because what if the episodes were out of order and he was new? And she's just remembering things wrong.
Yeah. And then I like, he's the cardiothoracic surgeon who's going to operate on him. And then Burke is like, and she's with me.
And she's with me. So I guess we have to cut back over to this scene with Sav and Izzy.
Ew. And then she just goes, no, I'm going out to dinner with my surgeon and our husbands. And you're like, ew, can you just say Addison and Derek?
I don't know what it is about that line, but I had the same exact reaction as you. I was like, I feel gross now. Like, I don't know why would you have to say it like that? Like,
it just, imagine if you were going in for surgery and you're like, I'm going out to dinner with my surgeon and our husbands. And you're like, ew, stop.
And
Ew.
Izzy's just like, you can just say Addison and Derek. They're basically celebrities around here.
I know who they are. My best friend was in love with one of them.
Also, he was weirdly in my kitchen all the time telling me what to eat.
Eating what was
Muesli.
Oh, yeah.
Breakfast is the most important
meal of the day.
You shouldn't be eating cupcakes. Go shove it up your ass. And then Izzy says you're a beautiful woman, which...
She's...
debatable.
I mean, she's, like, pretty, but she's not, like, oh my god, like, gorgeous. Like, I don't know.
She's not drop-dead gorgeous.
You have this picture of her, and she kind of looks...
She
looks okay,
man.
But, like, she looks like she's gonna grow into one of those really, really creepy old women.
I'm just gonna read this.
Kidding.
And so are you. Is that why this is so hard to understand? Ugh, menopause, I know. Boobs. But they have hormone replacement reconstruction. But the sexy savvy, the savvy that gets noticed when she walks in a room, the savvy that loves to wake her husband up in the middle of the night to make love, yeah, I wonder if that savvy's still gonna be there. Honestly, I haven't a clue. Which, ask the butler. Get it? But then I think, is that why Weiss married me? God, I hope not. It's like, that's probably 90% the reason why he married you. Have you met your husband? He's an asshole.
Which, if it is, woof. My whole thing with this, I mean, I think both her and Izzy have their points as to why, like, Sav thinks it's perfectly fine for her to get it and Izzy doesn't think she could get it. But the problem is that they're trying to, like, almost impose their ideas on each other. And at least in Sav's case, is doing a horrible job at it. She's just like, yeah, menopause is gonna be awful. And you're like, no, shut up. You're annoying me. You didn't have to do this. Or like, you're a beautiful woman. And Sav would be like, I know, but like, I also think I'll be a beautiful woman not having cancer and being like, I think I'm a beautiful woman in the fact that like I'm brave enough to go through these steps to avoid cancer that like many other women would not. And like, I feel like that just would have been a better thing than like, yeah, sexy savvy. Like,
yeah,
no.
and also TMI. I don't need to know about your lovemaking routines with your husband. Your dick bag of a husband. I don't need to know that. Also, so I don't think I would have these surgeries if I didn't already have cancer. But if I did find out that I had cancer and it scared me enough, maybe it's just me, but I'm one of those people that what my husband thought wouldn't affect what I did. Like, if some guy doesn't love me because I don't look good enough for him or that I won't have sex with him, I'd be like, okay, go throw yourself off a cliff.
I think my viewpoint would be like, I would at least talk to them about it, but ultimately, like, it's my decision, you know what I mean? Like, even if he was like, no, you're so much prettier with all this stuff, and be like, well, I'm also a lot prettier alive than dead, so.
Yeah, like, I know that this isn't what Weiss is saying, but it almost sounds like, I want you to be really pretty, and then when you die, I guess I'll move on. So George running around in, like, the basement of the hospital, this is candy to me. I love trying to figure out how the hospital works, and this is everything. I don't think they ever go this in depth later in the show ever about like the workings of the hospital. Like there's signs that show where billing and records and maintenance and the morgue is and autopsy, and I'm like, I need this. This is my bread and butter.
Also, this woman. That's because we don't like sick people. You're in a freaking hospital, woman. Mm-hmm. What do you think you're dealing with?
And she works in billing. Like,
yeah.
The connection. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, it's so brilliant. Yeah. Mimi Schmir, I love you.
And then George is like all happy. He's like, yeah, Stu sent me. He's in the hospital. He had an accident. I'm his doctor. And Daisy's just like, you can tell the bastard. He could have come looking for me like 10 years ago. And George is like, wait, what?
And George is like, uh-oh. Because, honestly, maybe he never tells Meredith how he feels, and then 10 years down the line, he's just like, oh, by the way, I liked you that whole time. And she's just like, well, if I had known that, like, just tell her, George. You know? Mm-hmm. That's where I'm getting to. It might be one of those things. Now, Meredith might not want to be with George, but if he never finds out, you know?
It's just going to be this awkward, like, unknown in his life.
Mm-hmm. So I like the cynical standpoint on the whole fate and love at first sight and soulmate thing, because that is so Grey's Anatomy. This is so Grey's Anatomy. Where the whole episode, it illustrates that kind of stuff doesn't happen until the last scene. And I love when Grey's does that. They make you, they're just like, oh, it's so cynical and like, oh, love doesn't exist. And then they're like, yeah, it does. Watch this. Mm-mm. Yeah. So we're going to do some dialogue.
All right, do you want to be Izzy or Alex?
I mean, Izzy has a longer speech, so I guess I'll be Izzy.
Okay. What are you pissed about?
You'll look at anything in a skirt.
I'd look at you in a skirt, short. Maybe something schoolgirl. Pleated.
If that skirt didn't have a pair of big bouncing boobs, you'd stop looking.
When you cut them off, you build them back up. Maybe you get to upgrade. Life goes on.
If there was a genetic test for testicular cancer, you think men who tested positive would have the surgery? No. You know why? It's castration. What man would willingly get rid of the part of his anatomy that makes him a man? This woman is having herself castrated, and we book an OR and act like it means nothing. It is not nothing. God. How could you possibly act like this is no big deal? I mean, what if it were me?
Izzy, you're freaking out. You know that, right?
If I was the woman with the cancer gene, if I showed up tomorrow and my boobs were made of plastic and my skin had aged 10 years and my sex drive had dried up, if it was me, Alex, would you feel the same way about it then? Yeah, you'd be really hot to kiss me with tongue then, wouldn't you?
Which, damn.
Which, Katherine Heigl, killing it. Again.
Mm-hmm.
This is such an important issue, and I feel like I've never seen this on another TV show. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I don't think so, but I also don't. Besides this show, I haven't watched that much, like, medical drama show. Like, I never watched, like, Scrubs or anything like that.
But
anyway.
This is one of those things where Izzy is not worried about Sav right now. Like, she is to some degree, but she's talking about herself. Because we've seen in this show that she's worried that people only like her because of the way she looks. Because, I mean, think about it. That has always been and will continue to be something that Izzy struggles with. She's the hot blonde. It's been heavily implied that her looks have gotten in the way of true relationships in the past, i.e. Hank. And everyone wishes that they could have supermodel good looks, but I think Izzy has realized that for most guys, that's all they see when they look at her. And so her question is, without these good looks, without this thing that I've relied on for years, like literally to make money, would anyone actually want me? That's what she's really saying in this scene. And it's really sad.
I don't know. I get what Izzy is saying about how, like, a guy would never do this, but I also think it is kind of brave of Sav to do what she is doing because, like, in a way, Izzy's right, you know? No guy will ever look at her the same. In fact, her own husband will probably never look at her the same. But yeah, like you were saying, I think it just reflects on, like, how much, and I think how much Izzy was almost taught to rely on her looks. Like, I feel like that's how she survived. I mean, we know that she grew up in a trailer park and all that stuff, and I feel like that's how she kind of survived in a sense.
I mean, that's how she got through med school.
Yeah. And so I think it's just almost shocking to her that, like, a woman would be able and would be willing to give up that.
But I also think it's always been in the back of her mind. Like, when Hank broke up with her because she was being smart. Yeah, that's basically why he broke up with her, was because she was smart. And he thought that what he was getting out of the deal was, oh, she's the hot blonde and I get to hang out with models.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I'm lingering so much on it is because it's very critical for later in this season.
So then we cut back, and George basically just kind of lies to Stu and is like, oh, they said she's on vacation, in reference to Daisy.
And then he dies, like, almost immediately after he says that.
And we never really know what happened. I mean, Bailey says there'll be an autopsy. Sometimes people get on the table and they just die. There's no way of knowing beforehand and no way of controlling it.
And then George, but he fell 5 stories and lived. It doesn't make any sense. He survived so I could go and find Daisy. And then she didn't even want to see him, so what's the point?
We're all part of the cosmic joke, O'Malley. Now leave me alone.
Which, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Grey's Anatomy is being like, fate doesn't exist, like, blah, blah, blah. You know, they're trying to be very cynical about this and show that, like, yeah, our patient Stu survived, so, and then they trick you into thinking, oh, it's because of Daisy. And then, like, 10 minutes later in the episode, he dies. And you're like,
yeah,
what? And, like, she doesn't want to see him. And so we're all so confused. And we're like, oh, true love doesn't exist. And then the last scene happens.
Well, I think it's also in the like, thought that I feel like people are always like, oh, you know, things are fate, like, talking about good things. But I think they're trying to probe that, like, you know, sometimes fate is a bad thing, you know? Like, maybe it was fate that he survived. But, like, it wasn't necessarily for a reason or anything. Like, it wasn't good fate. Like, it just happened.
Yeah, true. Maybe it was bad fate. So there's this quick little scene of Burke and Cristina scrubbing into surgery, and they are adorable. When they're going back and forth about, like, this man's, like, ailments.
Yeah.
I just, like, can you see that echo from here? The dissection isn't subtle. Did you see that wingspan in the pectus whatever? Cristina, what about his palate? The definition of high arched. And I was like, you nerds. But they're so perfect together.
Nerd couple. And then we finally get the whole resolution of Bailey and the Chiefs. Little, like, back and forth all episode.
I'm pregnant, you blind moron.
Which, huge ball drop. Like,
yeah.
Bailey? What?
Yeah, which is cool. My heart rate is 110. I'm burning 3,000 calories a day. My legs are swollen. I've got indigestion and gas. Did you know that carrying a boy in your uterus means you burn 10% more calories than if you had a girl? Guess what I'm carrying? I'd try for 7 damn years, and a month before my fellowship notifications, the stick turns blue. Men. From the very beginning, they just suck the life right out of you. I'm not leaving, I'm pregnant.
And then the chief is just he's like, congratulations.
The chief is like the father figure and like this commanding figure, but at the same time, he can do these type of scenes where he just is like... Oh, God.
If he's the father, Bailey is 100% the mother, and she's just like, Father, you're stupid. Get out, Ray. You're annoying me. Get out.
Yeah, big moment. Bailey's pregnant.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Which, so exciting.
Okay.
I love pregnant Bailey.
I Melt With You by... Oh, gosh.
Nouvelle.
Vague. Sure. So, this is the surgery with Cristina and Burke. And, like, this is the big sex scene for them in this episode. Like, no, I'm, like...
I know.
I'm saying it as a joke, but this is the equivalent of a sex scene for...
The two of them.
Yeah, exactly. And we see Boki, one of the nurses that's been there from episode 1 and is still on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And scrub nurse Linda Klein. She's behind the scenes. But this is seriously, like, this is as intimate as any scene that you would get with Meredith and Derek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then he tells Yang, he's like, you're handling the saw, which, like, she's amazed, and all of the other scrub nurses are kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, including scrub nurse Linda Klein.
Thank you.
But this is like a deep connection. Like, this is seriously an intimate moment between them.
And I love her. You won't let me pick the wine, but this you'll let me do? Mm. And he's just like, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I will.
Will let you do. Another elevator scene with Meredith and Derek, which, again, emphasizing the elevator. Everything happens on the elevator. And this time it's empty, and it's just the two of them.
And she looks angry again.
But Derek's line, this is funny. He goes, so, apparently we both live on this elevator. Like, that was funny. I'll admit that.
That was funny. And then she, like, doesn't say anything. And then he's like, Meredith, you could at least acknowledge I exist. And I was like, I think she's perfectly happy pretending you're dead.
True. But, like, Ellen Pompeo, take all my money. Because she's looking away, and then there's just brief moment when she looks up at him, and the, like, near tears in her eyes, and just the look that she gives him. That woman can act. Oh, my God.
It's almost, this face made me just think of, like, the facial, like, thing to, like, the line of, but hating you, that's the most exhausting. Mm-hmm. That, like, this is the face. Like, when she had made that face, I just thought of that line.
Yeah, because that's what she's going through. Except this time, there's no chance of getting back together with him. So it hurts even more.
Yeah.
Then Addison walks in. And, by the way, props to Addison for not letting it show how much this probably hurts her. I mean, her husband is being a complete jerk to her. Kind of like Weiss is to his wife.
Freaking Weiss.
And, like, Derek's face says, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Meredith's face is, I'm utterly destroyed and near tears. And Addison has to walk in and act like it doesn't bother her.
She's just like, hello.
The way it's framed, too, I love the blocking of this scene where it's, like, Addison and Derek and then Meredith, like, right between them, over their shoulders.
Meredith has to tell Esme because it's like she's their patient, doctor, patient, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so she kind of tells Esme, like, you have cancer.
Off-screen, though.
Yeah.
I liked that choice. I thought that was a good choice.
And I really like, she's basically like, you didn't tell Jed, did you? And she's like, I don't want him to know, kind of thing. And then I like, Meredith, you can't have a relationship built on a lie, can you? And Esme goes, oh, honey, it's not a lie. It's our future. I've been with the love of my life for 60 years, and now I'm dying. We're going to Venice. We're getting in that gondola.
It's so adorable. Like, we get, like, these horrible, like, broken up couples with Weiss and Sav and Addison and Derek, but then at the same time, we get this couple that has been with each other for 60 years, and they're just as in love today as they were 60 years ago.
Well, I think that's supposed to be, like, what you're supposed to compare it to. It should be, exactly. Like, we have these characters who, like, you might think at first, like, oh yeah, they're in love, but then you see this other couple in Esme and Jed, and you kind of just realize, no, like, this is, like, true love, and what these people have, at least at this point, isn't really, like, that, yeah.
Also, the mention of Venice is not there on accident. It's only about an hour from Verona, where we lay our scene. Will civil blood make civil hands unclean?
She's quoting Romeo and Juliet again.
Yes.
Blech.
So, I love Romeo and Juliet. But not for the reasons you think I do.
Okay.
Like, I love it because it is so hard to write the way that he wrote. Like, to write in the iambic pentameter for that long,
That was, like, his thing, though.
No, but, like, when people don't understand the genius of Shakespeare, he's a genius. Anyway,
I mean, he
we're
is,
moving on.
but...
He's a genius.
He
like,
is.
If you
I still
try
don't
to
like
write
it,
like
though.
that, oh my god.
He's a genius. I still don't like it, though.
Cut to Joe's bar, which I just now thought of it. Of course, Addison and Derek's friends would have a fight in Joe's bar because that's kind of a symbolic area for Meredith and Derek.
Yeah. Which, this dinner, Weiss is just an asshole. And then, so Sav basically, is, like, holding up a toast. And she's like, here's to taking your life in our own hands. And everyone's like, cheers, yeah, whatever. And then Weiss goes, like the asshole he is, yeah, here's to bull, and here's to crap, and here's to...
Ooh, forectomy.
Hysterectomy, double bilateral mastectomy. How smart am I to know all those words? And you're like, nope, you're still a moron because you're talking.
Yeah. Ugh. Here's to breast reconstruction, nipple reconstruction. Here's to losing your wife. Here's to being the ass who can't be supportive.
There he goes. He gets one right.
He got one right.
Which first he's like, here's to losing your wife. Where is she going, Weiss? She's still there.
Yeah, you're gonna lose your wife because she's gonna divorce your ass.
Because you're a dumbass.
And it's like, well, thanks. Now everything is super awkward. Thanks, Weiss.
Thank you for making this moment totally awkward.
God. Also, makes me wonder. He goes, how smart am I to know all those words? I assume that they were medical people. Because all of Addison and Derek's friends are medical people. What's their jobs?
He's probably a hobo.
He's probably a stripper. Oh my god. No, actually, SVU is set in New York. He could be the attorney. He could be an attorney. I would like that.
I can see that. He's enough of an asshole to be an attorney.
Yeah, yes, oh my gosh. And his stupid arguments. Is it Derek? Is it really? He's totally an attorney. He's a lawyer. Oh my god.
Pretty bad one, though. Anyway. Then we cut over,
Your Honor, I'm losing my wife. Shut up.
So, anyway. Faraway Blues by Joe Purdy plays.
Joe Purdy. I love him.
Yeah, I was about to say. We've had a couple songs by him now, right?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
His voice is an instrument. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
I feel like a voice is always considered...
No, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, his voice adds some... Like, if somebody else covered his songs, it wouldn't be his songs. Uh-huh. It's like his voice makes it.
Yeah. Ugh. So then Weiss is just sitting in a chair.
Don't talk to me, keep walking. And I was like, don't have to tell me twice.
Stewing in his assholeness.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm supposed to hold her hand while they rip her apart. That's the definition of love.
It's almost like it's not about you, Weiss.
Also, like, I think that is the definition of love. You're supposed to be there with your, like, a person you're in love with as they're going through something like this. I mean, like, I don't know. Is that the definition of love? Well, you should be there for someone you love, Weiss, whatever the hell your name is.
Stupid ass name.
Your stupid ass personality.
Maybe I can't. Maybe I'm just the guy who likes to screw his wife. Well, I mean...
There you go. More asshole.
I mean, that's what she'll think if I'm not there. Yeah. Because that's what it would be if you weren't there.
Because that's exactly why you wouldn't be there.
And Derek, you're gonna be there. This coming from the guy who packed his bags in the middle of the night and drove 3,000 miles to live in a trailer. Which, thank you for acknowledging that he lives in a shit trailer. Thank you, Weiss.
And then he says, I'm sorry. He's like, well, what am I doing with Addison now?
Derek, this is so messed up. So Derek is being like, look, Weiss, Addison and I are like the perfect example of two married people that are trying to make things work. I was just like, you, like, trying to get Weiss to do the right thing by comparing him to Addison, or to you and Addison, is like the opposite. You and Addison have so many problems. What are you talking about?
That's the thing. They keep trying to relate it. He's like, that's what I'm doing with Addison right now, Weiss. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because Sav and Weiss never cheated on each other. And you're like, grow up, Weiss. Get with the woman you love. God.
If you don't love her, then leave. Nobody wants you here anyway.
Look, he's just like, I'm gonna go pout in a corner.
And then Derek goes, it's about the ring. So basically, it's about the oath that you make, no matter if you still love them or not. It's just about that thing that you put on the finger. It's just the promise. It doesn't mean anything.
I think we proved from Mr. What's-His-Name last episode, who was like, at first in the episode, he was like, oh yeah, it's because of the vows. And then he left his wife at the end, which good, because she was awful too. God, maybe she can marry Weiss. Ugh.
That's true.
Both be awful together.
She's never gonna die. It's about the vows. Savvy didn't screw around with you and your best friend. Valid point. She's looking for support.
You.
If you don't give that to her now, if you don't give her that support, then what the hell am I doing? But that actually is a good point. He's saying, Weiss... He's actually telling Weiss, yes, this act... Like, you can't compare me and Addison to you and Sav. Because Sav didn't completely betray you.
Yeah.
You know? And he's basically saying, like, if I am staying with Addison after what Addison did to me, then you can go support your wife who still loves you and still, like, hasn't betrayed you. So Derek is actually taking our side.
Yeah. Weiss, though.
Cut to George and Meredith. This is a really big moment for me. Because they're sitting at Cary Park. Now, I have a little story. Last time I was in Seattle was in 2015, and we went to this place because it's like a block away from the house that is Meredith's house in the show, and you can actually go visit that house and see it, and it was so cool. I was like, oh my god, that's Meredith's house. So anyway, we saw that house, I got a picture with it, whatever, and then we went to this park later in the day, and I was like, I've been here. I don't know how I've been here, but I've been here. And I was just like racking my brain. Like, where do I know? Like, why is this place so familiar to me? And it had been in this episode. I had watched this episode so many times that I recognized the park when I went there. And Meredith and George, this scene takes place in a place called Cary Park in Seattle. So you all, if you want to go sit where Ellen Pompeo sat on that wall, go to Cary Park.
And probably another 100 homeless people have sat there too.
And me. I sat on that wall right where she did.
Gross.
In order to get a picture.
I thought he cheated fate.
Maybe he did cheat fate.
He died.
I think you can't wait for someone to fly underneath and save your life. I think you have to save yourself.
You mean the pigeons aren't going to come?
The pigeons aren't going to come.
Anyway.
That scene is so quirky and so goddamn good!
You're scaring me.
Just that, like, such a short little scene like that. That scene is better than all of seasons, like, 8 through 14. Mm-hmm. All of them. Now we're cutting to the weirdest scene I've ever seen. I am a female. You are a female. And I am almost absolutely sure that, like, this would never happen.
No.
Ever. No. Ever. We are best friends. And this would never happen.
No.
Addison has found a Polaroid camera. Hope you don't lose the pictures. My god. And then Sav.
You know, this is going to be next year's holiday cards, which, God Lord, I'm going to shred it if it does.
I would love for there to be a mix-up, and they became the Christmas cards, and people are just, like, copiously vomiting on their mail.
Could you just imagine it, like, get sent to, like, her parents, and they're just like...
and they're just like...
Look, our young daughter. And then she goes, and this way, Weiss gets to look at them whenever he wants.
Which is gross. Like, Weiss, ugh.
Or he can look at his wife.
Yeah. Ugh. Weiss is like, I need to be alone with these pictures for a few minutes. And you're like, Weiss, go jump off a bridge.
Gross. Mm-hmm. And then I like this. Addison kind of goes, as your friend, are you absolutely sure about this? And Sav goes, I know what I'm losing. I get it. But think about what I'm gaining. My life. This gives me a shot at the future. a shot at me and Weiss, which is gross, becoming this crazy old wrinkled couple that argues all the time. I mean, wouldn't you want that, a chance to grow old with Derek? And you're like, okay, that's kind of sweet.
And you're like, oh, that's so cute, because Addison is, like, crying. I honestly think this is the first time we actually see Addison, like, show, like, emotion.
You're also just like, oh, that's so sweet. If only your husband wasn't a giant turd.
And also you. She just... both of them are just kind of like, ugh. And then Addison crying, yeah, I do. And I was like, oh. See, this is when you start realizing that you can ship the hell out of Meredith and Derek. But Addison, I love her too. Like, oh gosh, it's so great. Oh my god, yes. And we follow up that weird ass scene with
another weird ass scene.
No, this scene is amazing. Izzy Stevens is my spirit animal. I love her so much.
Well, yes.
You want to be Alex?
I don't care.
Again? I'll be Izzy again.
All right. Here's the thing. I like your rack.
What is wrong with you? Why do you have to be so... What is wrong with you?
I like your rack, and I'd want them around if I could have them. Trust me, I would. But it wouldn't be the end of the world if you got rid of them, because really, I'd want you. Which is cute, but it's so cliche that I was like, Grey's Anatomy, why are you doing this cliche thing? And then immediately, Izzy slaps him in the face, and I was like, Grey's Anatomy, you didn't do the cliche thing. And then
she
kisses him.
She kisses him, and then
just walks away smiling.
And I don't really know what this scene means, but I still love it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand exactly the point that she's making, but it seems like she makes the point. Awesome.
All right, so then Miss Halfway by Anya Marina? Mm-hmm. Plays, and you see Esme and Jed leaving the hospital.
As Meredith watches.
Mm-hmm. Like God from above.
Burke, I guess we never really got our date.
And then Christina was like, that was the best date I've ever been on, which you're like, oh.
And Burke, like, walks away grinning. He's like, still got it.
And then Sav's laying on the operating table. Derek walks in, and Sav's like, he's not coming, is he? Which, good.
Which, yeah, get over it.
And then and then Weiss walks in, and you're like, ugh.
And you're like, oh, you're just the less attractive Derek.
You're like, go away. You're so annoying. And then they have this whole, like, yay, you're back scene. Whatever. And they're, like, holding hands, and you're like, fantastic.
And they zoom in on, yeah, it's like, you two go enjoy each other somewhere else, because I'm tired of looking at your faces. They zoom on his wedding ring, though, which is that extra little touch, which, yeah, like, good way to wrap up the episode, and you're like, oh. But holy Jesus Christ, get ready. This scene is by far one of the best scenes of Grey's Anatomy.
Meredith's face when the elevator door opens and it's Derek is just like, are you freaking kidding me?
She's just like, I swear I need to start taking the stairs. Derek's face when she opens the door is just like, they both look utterly destroyed at this point.
They're just like, oh, why?
This scene, oh my god.
It's so sweet.
Oh my god. It's not sweet, Becca. It's hot.
I think it's adorable.
Know what you're watching, but she stands there, and they're both, like, hyper aware that they're both in this elevator, and they're like, oh, this is, like... And then she just goes, I miss you. And he, like, looks up at her, walks up behind her, and kind of, like, smells her, like, for lack of a better word. And it's the hottest... It's the hottest...
You smell like lavender.
It's the hottest thing ever. Like, there will be moments on this show where we literally watch two characters have sex, and it's not as hot as this moment.
Mm-hmm. And then he just, like, kind of, like, pulls away, and is just like, I can't.
Yeah, and, like, she's, like, her eyes are closed and in pain, and he's, like, in pain. He wants to, like, kiss her so bad. And it's just, like, the angst and the chemistry in this scene could set this hospital on fire. I don't know how they filmed... Like, I'm sure the crew who filmed this were like, holy crap, get me some ice water. That was hot. Holy mother of creation.
Alright, so final voiceover. Maybe Romeo and Juliet were fated to be together, but just for a while, and then their time passed. If they could have known that beforehand, maybe it all would have been okay. I told Miss Snyder that when I was grown up, I'd take fate into my own hands. I wouldn't let some guy drag me down. Miss Snyder said I'd be lucky if I ever had that kind of passion with someone, and then if I did, we'd be together forever. Even now, I believe that for the most part, love is about choices. It's about putting down the poison in the dagger and making your own happy ending most of the time. And that sometimes, despite all your best choices and all your best intentions, fate wins anyway.
Fate wins anyway is what she says when the door opens and it's Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fate. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. Forbidden love. Seriously, count one. I'm sorry, I'm still not over that last scene. That's seriously one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Patrick Dempsey and Ellen Pompeo. Right. I have 4 patient rankings.
Yep.
Alright. Number 4 for me is Speed and Talia. Speed. Oh my god.
Yeah, mine was the same.
They were good. I liked them.
But just...
I didn't dislike any of these patients.
Yeah. But just, I feel like with some of the other characters, like, they were last.
Mm-hmm. My number 3 is Esme.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I loved that Meredith got to see what a healthy, good relationship was, though. Mm-hmm. I really liked her interacting with these two older, like with this older couple, because the only older couple that she's interacted with has been like Ellis, and it's always been antagonistic. So this is like the first time we see her with like a grandma and grandpa age, and we're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Stu.
Mine is Sav. Well, mine's kind of because I put Stu as my number 1, and I like his storyline, and I like his kind of version of fate in the sense of kind of like bringing up like the bad side of fate. And I feel like that's why we get like that whole interaction between George and Meredith and kind of being like, you know, sometimes you have to save yourself. Like sometimes the pigeons aren't coming, you know.
What a good line.
And I feel like that's kind of what she's getting at in like her last voiceover with like, sometimes despite everything you do, fate wins anyway. And like sometimes that isn't a good definition of fate, but like it still sometimes wins anyway.
Oh, yes it does. So my number 1 is Sav, and I picked it because this is one of the few times that we get kind of like the background on Addison and Derek and their life in New York, and we barely ever get anything touching on that. And I just crave it all the time. Like, I want to know about their past. I want to know about their marriage, about their friends in New York. And it seems like this black hole mystery that we never really get to find out much about. And I always love it when we do. And despite Weiss just being a horrible person and Sav just being so weird, I really do love them. And I think that the fact that they started this kind of anger and conversation between us, they did their job, you know?
Yeah.
I have a make one change.
Oh my gosh.
I actually do.
I don't.
I wish that Meredith had some sort of scene or something was acknowledged by Weiss and Sav. I would change that in this episode. I don't think that it needs to be changed, but I think that it could be added, and I think it would have been better. Like, maybe in one of the scenes in the elevator or something, Weiss and Sav are in the elevator too, and they just kind of, like...
can feel the tension.
Or they just acknowledge, like, what if Weiss and Sav walked into the elevator instead of Addison in that one scene?
Would have been interesting.
Or they would have acknowledged, like, which one's Meredith. You know, like, something like that. Or they acknowledge that, yeah, they know about her. Or something.
Or, like, something, or they just walk in and they can just feel that.
Yeah. Or, you know, maybe they see her down the hallway, and Meredith kind of looks at them, and that's it. It doesn't have to have dialogue. An intersection with those two storylines would have been nice.
Yeah.
And then just real quick, the events of Callie's flashback, which was in season 6, are supposedly taking place during this episode, which is actually really important. Also, another theory possibility is that Bailey is offered fellowships in this episode. This is contradictive to the later episodes in which Meredith and her fellow residents choose their specialties. First of all, general surgeons don't have to complete a fellowship, as having completed the surgical residency qualifies this physician as an attending general surgeon. Also, Bailey is only in her 4th year of residency, and it's later proven in season 8 that residents who do want to specialize choose their fellowships in their 5th year of residency. That is a huge theory.
Yeah.
Huge. That's like the biggest one so far.
Yeah.
I just assumed you didn't have a make one change. Okay. Next week, we're talking about Season 2, Episode 9, Thanks for the Memories. This is the Thanksgiving episode, and it's the first official extended episode.
Yay.
So I will have some new scenes that actually never premiered on TV that I can tell you all about. Written by Shonda Rhimes. She's back. And directed by a guy named Michael Dinner. He's new. And his name is Michael Dinner for the Thanksgiving episode.
I know. We literally have Thanks for the Memories, the title of the episode, Thanks. And then you have a guy directed by a guy named Dinner. And you're like,
oh, Grace.
Did they plan this?
Probably. All right. So that is it. Please go rate and review us on iTunes. If you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter. You can find us at Grey's Uncut. And longer questions or comments will go to our email, which is greysanatomy.uncut@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Signing off.
See ya.
Bye.